Good evening, Tallahassee. I'm student meteorologist Ian Muchler here for our 30-minute update of Hurricane Idalia as it does begin to make landfall here in the northern Gulf Coast here. This is a live look of Tampa here. As you can see, it's a little bit rainy here. We're having some strong bands push through some of the outer bands here of Hurricane Idalia. We'll talk a little bit more about that later when we get the radar look. And here is, I believe, another look at Tampa downtown here. And again, some of that rainy conditions here really starting to impact some of those outer bands, which oftentimes can be actually really intense and sometimes a little bit even more intense rainfall-wise of the core of the system. And here's a look at Cedar Key here. Actually looks really gorgeous right now, sort of that calm before the storm here. Cedar Key might be the landfall zone of Hurricane Idalia in the next 12 to 24 hours here as the storm does push northward towards the northern Gulf Coast. Again, here's the live look of the radar here. This is Tallahassee here. This is our local view. We're seeing some of those first bands begin to push through some of that squally conditions. You can expect not too bad of weather, but definitely some rainy, squally conditions, maybe some gusty winds associated with that. So we'll keep you updated on that as these squalls do begin to push through. But this is the first of many as we get through the landfall of Hurricane Idalia. So here we go. We're going to take a little zoomed out look of the storm here. Let's go a little bit further out so we can get the whole radar picture of the storm here. If we can get that loaded in here. Go ahead and zoom in a little bit over here if you can. A little bit this way. To the west. There we go. Now we're good. All right, so here we go. We can see that eye here. So if you've seen the recent satellite trends, we've seen an eye definitely start to begin to poke out of the satellite images. We've seen the term pinhole eye thrown around a lot, which is not what we wanted to see because this pinhole eye is indicative of some really significant strengthening here. And that this storm is taking advantage of these really warm Gulf waters as it pushes northward, generally northward, expecting to turn a little bit northeastward as we push through the next, through the overnight hours, and eventually make landfall somewhere here along the Big Bend region. So again, all these yellow boxes here, these are tornado watches. Now, when we think of hurricanes, we don't necessarily think of tornadoes. We kind of think of them as two different things, but tornadoes are associated with hurricanes, especially here in this northeast quadrant, which is why we're seeing these tornado watches all over here. So if we can zoom into this strong band here, we can see some of this strong weather that's impacting Tampa that we saw on the cameras earlier. This is what we're really worried for. As these bands push on shore, they can oftentimes spin up and get these quick tornadoes. And again, it's nighttime, and it's also within hurricane conditions, so we're not necessarily going to be seeing these tornadoes. So if you get a tornado warning, please make sure to take shelter, follow your plans, your weather alert plans, and stay safe from the tornadoes, obviously. So these bands are going to continue pushing inward and providing some really intense gusty conditions, squally conditions, through the overnight hours. But thankfully, the hurricane itself, the core of it, is going to be pushing past this latitude of Tampa here. So the worst of it is seeming to get closer to being over here in the next few hours. So again, thankfully, Tampa didn't get the impacts that we thought it was going to get. The surge here, as the winds are going around the storm like this, can really impact this area, especially the Tampa Bay area with how it's geographically set up, can really catch that storm surge water and just build it up. So thankfully, the storm surge estimates that I saw last were only about 4 to 7 feet, which is obviously still significant, but it could be a lot worse because up in the Big Bend region, the storm surge estimates are up to 12 to 15 feet. So for context, I'm 6 feet tall, so that is at least double my height. And that's above sea level. And it's also a full moon, so a really strong high tide. So really not a great situation here developing. If we can zoom out and get that big look here. So again, let's zoom into the Big Bend region here. I want to show you something about the geography of that. So again, sort of the same thing with the Tampa Bay area. This coastline is shaped almost like a bucket. It's going to catch that water as it pushes in and really just shove it inward, and it's going to have nowhere to go except inland. So this is a problem, and this is why those storm surge estimates are so high. And again, this area has never seen a major hurricane make landfall ever. This is the first time ever, so we're forecasting it, and this is sort of an unprecedented event here that we've got developing here. So we're going to take a look here at the IR satellite. So go ahead and zoom up a little bit. We're a little bit off here. So again, this is showing the cloud top temperatures. So these deeper colors you're seeing, especially near the center of the storm, are colder cloud tops. So the cloud tops are colder, and therefore they're higher up in the atmosphere, and it's indicative of more intense updrafts and a stronger system. So we're seeing these deep black colors around here, around the center, and this central dense overcast around the center of the storm. And there's that pinhole eye that we were talking about earlier. So it's starting to peak out here, and it's a problem here. This is indicative of the strong strengthening that we're seeing here as the storm does begin to push northward here. So again, this storm is generally moving northward. We're expecting a northeastward motion eventually once it gets up towards the coast here, but as of now, it is just northward, and yeah, so we're expecting that to have, the timing of that northeastward term is going to have impacts of where it's going to make landfall. So this pinhole eye is something we're really concerned about, and we're going to have to see how this situation develops in the next few hours. Again, here's the visible satellite. Let's go ahead and zoom up because we're a little too south here. Same sort of situation. This one's not showing the cloud tops, just the actual clouds here. And again, that storm is pushing northward towards the Gulf Coast here. So again, terrible situation developing, unprecedented situation, and something we are very concerned about. So we're going to go back to the radar here. Again, these squalls here are definitely starting to impact the region. So we're going to monitor that as that happens, some of that squally conditions. The storm, I just got word, is now 110 miles per hour. So that's strengthened. Again, Category 3 status is 115 miles per hour. So the storm has now reached 110 miles per hour. So we're just on the cusp of major hurricane status. So we're going to watch this storm as it develops. And again, this is a fast evolving situation here. 110 miles per hour. The pressure, last I saw, was down in the mid-960s. So again, that inverse relationship that we were talking about earlier, the lower the pressure, the stronger the storm. And the winds are, again, 110 miles per hour. So 5 miles per hour off major hurricane status. And we're expected, we still have at least 12 hours of strengthening here as it goes towards the North Gulf Coast, at least. Okay, so the storm, the waters, we've talked about it all night, are extremely warm. All right, and this storm is going to have ample fuel as it pushes northward. So 110 miles per hour, the recent update, recon found that, and there's, look at how circular that eye is down there. All right, that is about as good as it gets here. So 960 millibars is our pressure. So almost down into the 950s here. Again, terrible situation developing. We're going to get you through this, okay? All right, just stay with us, and yeah, so about 12 to 15 more hours before we're seeing landfall here. I'm going to pass things over to the wall with Ryan with a look at some of our social media updates.
Yeah, I've been monitoring both social media and the local news apps, and just kind of
I'm going to go get air.
ready to pass along to you. We've been monitoring school closings as well. So Leon County schools, they're closed through Thursday, and of course that could always be extended. Same with Wakulla County, closed through Wednesday. Again, very likely with the landfalling major hurricane that'll get extended, but again, we don't make that decision. Same with Florida State University, closed through at least Friday, so all classes for Florida State have been canceled until after Labor Day, which will be next Tuesday. Also monitoring some other local school districts. Franklin County, you're closed through Wednesday. Lafayette County, you're closed through Friday. Then Tallahassee Community College is also closed through Friday. Some of these schools are being used as shelters. That's the reason that we're closing a lot of these schools, as well as to keep kids and parents safe. So if you're going to bed tonight wondering, do I have to wake up tomorrow to bring my kid to school? You do not. I want you to be waking up to prepare for a potentially landfalling major hurricane. And lastly, taking a look at shelter openings. Lee County, your shelters are now open along with Madison County. Taylor County, you're going to be, they want you to use Leon County shelters. I believe Madison County is also using Leon County shelters. I just want to pull up all the latest shelter information on my phone to make sure I've got all the updates as they're coming into us here in the newsroom. So Taylor County, your shelters are closed, as I mentioned. They're telling you to use Leon County shelters. Suwannee County, they have capacity at Pineview Elementary School, as well as Branford Elementary and Suwannee Springcrest Elementary. Leon County, your shelter is open starting at 5 o'clock today. We have Madison County that at Madison County Central School has openings starting at 5 o'clock. Lafayette County, they're saying due to higher than expected wind amounts that they want you to use other counties or to evacuate the county completely. And then as well as Hamilton County, your shelter opened at 4 o'clock today. That's going to be at Hamilton County High School. So again, we're going to keep trying to bring you the latest information that we see both in way of news and on social media. We've been tracking some of the power outages across the state, and as of about 9:54 this evening, power outage-wise, all of the counties have about 0 to 5% power outages. Taking a look at like McCulloch County, where we've got a little bit of yellow, 583 customers are without county. We've started to see some of the early bands of the storm start to work its way into McCulloch County. Columbia County, we've got about 567 people without power. Let's bring it on over into Clay County, where we've got over 2,000 people without power. Let's go and scroll up. I'm just kind of trying to look at some of the major counties. Duval County, we don't have any customers without power, so that's great news as we're starting to get closer and closer to the landfall of this storm. Seminole County near Orlando, 182 without power. Going down to Orange County, 852 without power. Brevard County, 141 without power. Let's take a look at the West Coast. Near Tampa, Hillsborough County, we've only got 3 without power. So that's good news as we go into the overnight hours. At least some of these counties are maintaining power. Pinellas County, we've got about 2,300 without power. Let's go down further to the Keys in the Monroe County, about 124 without power. Into Miami-Dade, about 1,700 without power. So relatively small number of power outages, about 11,000, almost 12,000 customers throughout the state without power. Into Leon County, we don't have any power outages at the current moment, so that is good news as we take a look at the storm starting to work its way. And again, let's go ahead and look at the NHC and what they have to say about Idalia. Still, we just got about 10 o'clock update from them, but not much has changed since the 8 o'clock update. We're still going to be looking right in here for a landfall of a major hurricane. The current thinking is Big Bend into the Panhandle region. And I'm going to switch over to the satellite imagery and turn on infrared, and we can kind of see what we're looking at in way of, there's water vapor imagery actually right there, so we kind of see how that rust color there is kind of dry air, the green obviously being the storm, and we can still see that storm getting its way together. Let's switch to infrared, which can go through the night, and we can see definitely an eye starting to get itself together. Let me pause it actually on the last frame, and we can see just how the eye is starting to come together. A little bit of wobbles in the track here and there, but for the most part, we're going to kind of be focused on as this major Category 3 hurricane starts to work its way into the Big Bend region of Florida. Let's switch over real quick to WeatherStem. I've kind of been monitoring some of the cameras around here. Let's go up, see if there's anything near Tampa. That would be Tampa Fire Station. Skies look pretty clear as of now. For the most part, the storm is maintaining offshore. This is off the Tallahassee radar, so we're not really focused as much inland, but we can see the eye of the storm from the Tallahassee radar. Let me go ahead and put a measurement on that. From the Tallahassee radar site at Tallahassee International Airport, we're only about 200 miles away now, so the eye of the storm is about 200 miles from Tallahassee. We're noticing some good storms starting to work its way into Leon County. I'll go ahead and zoom in on that for you here, and we can kind of time out when this band is going to be in your neighborhood. So working its way closer to FSU's campus, we should be starting to hear this storm here in a little bit. Woodville just passed through you. Midway, Quincy, you guys are kind of next for this band, as well as Crawfordville, as this storm and this band kind of passes its way through. Working our way further to the east coast, we've got Jennings, Jasper, some lightning associated with this storm. Plenty of lightning kind of working its way out of Live Oak as these bands start to push their way through. I'm going to switch radar sites over to the Tampa one so we can kind of get a better idea of what's going on within the storm as well as what's going on inland. And just up and down the coast, the west coast of Florida, we see this big band stretching from Cape Coral all the way through St. Petersburg up to Clearwater, up into the nature coast of Florida. So let me go ahead and we can kind of highlight where all these bands are moving through. It looks like we just got a new marine warning right here in orange, but all through Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton, we're seeing this strong line of storms. As well as we work into the overnight hours, we do have a tornado watch for this region in here. This is really where we're going to be wanting to pay attention to the possibility for some of these storms to develop some overnight, quick, short-lived tornadoes So definitely keep your phones and weather radios on standby as we go into the overnight hours. Now I'm going to pass it back over to the wall with Aaron, who's going to have more on Idalia.
That's right, and as we continue on our coverage here, if you have any questions regarding Idalia, please make sure to put them in the comments below, and we'll be trying to answer them over in the next segment. But Idalia right now is producing some cloud coverage over the Tampa area right now. So this is a live view out of Tampa. Dark skies, we have that nightfall, but also because we have those clouds overhead, kind of helping to damp that lightness coming from, I guess, what was at one time the sun up in the sky. So here, I believe this is over near Raymond James Stadium, it looks like here. With those bright lights. Looks like power is still on for a portion, at least in the western portions of Tampa here. But at least for the most part, we're staying relatively, not entirely, we're not seeing a lot of that, most of the heavy weather coming through right now. This is Cedar Key Fire Weather Center right now. This weather is going to go downhill overnight tonight. You might be able to actually see the moon up there on the very top portion of your screen here, top right-hand portion right there. But again, we're going to see more cloud coverage coming into the area as we continue, or Idalia continues to get closer to the area. But as we kind of look over the general scope of what's going on with Idalia, we can see a very well-defined eye here over, looks like it's coming from the Tampa radar. So really well-defined core here. So definitely have that's where the worst of the winds are going to be with the center of the circulation. That's the other thing to remember too, is even though the storm is 110 miles an hour, that's the wind at the eye wall. That's not wind, say, over here near Tampa. The Tampa is getting near tropical storm force, if not there, especially on the coastline. Again, most of the strongest, at least more strongest winds are going to be right around the core of the storm right there as it begins to track, or as it continues to track over towards the Big Bend of Florida. So actually, we'll go back on radar here. So we go towards Tampa. We can kind of show that we have that squall onshore right now across Hillsborough County, Pinellas, down through coastal Manatee and coastal Sarasota counties right now, where we have the heaviest of rain. So about Fort Charlotte, Northport, northward, over towards about Clearwater, near Largo, in this area, kind of where we have right now the heaviest band of storms coming through the area. And this will kind of make its way off toward the north and the east. So Tampa, downtown, as it goes over the Courtney Campbell and on these other bridges across the bay there, we should expect those storms to kind of ride on and go into downtown Tampa. And then further into eastern Hillsborough County, so Brandon, Fishhawk, if you're there, we're going to continue to see that band eventually get there and bring the heavy rain. But behind that, it looks like we're having a bit of a clearing out there along, at least over the Gulf of Mexico. So I stand over here. We can see that clear pocket between until the next band behind that comes on shore, perhaps near Pinellas later on in the next few hours or so. And then that's kind of how these systems work. We have a round of showers of storms, then we have a break, and then we have another round of showers and storms. That's kind of how these tropical systems form and kind of develop over time. So again, that's something to watch out over the next several hours, even in the Tampa area. But it looks like, at least in southwest Florida, if we go down near Naples and Fort Myers there, at least they have another band coming through, but the worst of the weather should start to be over here, and weather should actually start to improve over the next several hours or so as Idalia has went north of their latitude, and it should help to bring more clear weather, more wind should start to relax a bit behind the system. So we'll actually go over towards Orlando now to kind of see what's going on there along the East Coast. And looks like it's pretty dry over the East Coast here, with perhaps a few showers out in the far Atlantic Ocean. But again, that should kind of pivot around it. And that original squall that did come through earlier, if you were still here with us earlier on the show, that is now kind of over Jacksonville now and kind of fading away as it continues off towards the east. So now we'll take a look at IR satellite here. This is normally the view we want to look at nighttime because it gives us the view of the colder cloud tops, because we can't see, of course, the visible satellite during the nighttime, but during the nighttime here, we can see IR because basically it is we're seeing the colder cloud tops, especially around that robust center of circulation around Idalia here. And you can clearly see we have those storms wrapping well-definedly around the center of circulation there. And that's why we've been seeing this system rapidly intensify overnight tonight, as we're seeing the central pressure down to 960 millibars and the wind speed down up to about 110 miles an hour. So just on the cusp of Category 3 major hurricane Idalia here soon. So unfortunately, it looks like the forecast has been trending or has been panning out here as expected, and that's kind of an unfortunate thing here because we're going to expect to see a lot of those heavy storm surge being north of Tampa, really anywhere between Tampa over towards Cedar Key, getting the worst of it. So here's our visible satellite. Again, we're not really seeing much in the way of any kind of at least robust convection we saw with IR, but you can kind of hint a little bit of an eye starting to form there just offshore here. So as we make our way into the overview section here, we'll kind of talk a bit about kind of overall what's going on with Ian. So first of all, we'll start with the Hurricane Center. Actually, we'll step right off here just quickly, and we'll go over to the next segment with Priscilla.
So now we're taking a look. Dope Campbell? I believe this is either Dope Campbell Stadium. So things are looking pretty dark right now. But again, we're going to take a look into the Atlantic, check out the tropics. Again, we have had Tropical Depression 11 form recently. We will have more info on that later. And as well, we also have Hurricane Franklin, but right now our main focus is Hurricane Idalia, which is very soon to strengthen to a Category 3. Right now we are at 110 miles per hour, whereas a Category 3 starts at 115 miles per hour. So it's getting very close. We've got 960 millibars, and it is moving north at 18 miles per hour. So it is moving very fast. And looking into our tracks and intensity, my bad, 1 second, as we figure out our graphics. Things are moving pretty slowly. So we've got our visible satellite, again, as we were talking about earlier, and we're starting to see the eye form, and it is moving a lot faster than it was earlier. Earlier today and yesterday, we saw it moving at 2 to 3 miles an hour. Then it started picking up around 10, 12. Now we're at 18. Things are moving pretty fast. It is going to come in pretty fast into the Big Bend region and impacting us here at Florida State University. Again, we've got our live radar. These are all the tornado watches across the western coast of Florida and the Gulf Coast. And again, we've got those warm waters fueling the storm even more. And in this radar, we can even see the eye that is forming very quickly now and moving in as we progress through the night. Again, spaghetti models. It was mentioned earlier as the models, it's not as necessary to look at them because, as you can see, this storm is huge, and basically anywhere in the Florida region, you are going to be experiencing effects. So I really hope you are prepared as we move throughout the night. Make sure you have your battery-powered devices ready, charge your phones, make sure you put your phone, you turn it off of Do Not Disturb. You want to make sure you hear those alerts as they are needed. It's very likely there will be a shelter-in-place warning here, and as we can see, we will very likely experience a Category 3 landfall. As well, sea temperatures, sea surface, over 80 degrees. So what, again, this is going to do is speed up the storm, fuel it, give it that energy it needs to intensify and put us more in danger. So like I said, you really want to make sure things are staying careful and being vigilant. And now we're going to take a look at the Saffir-Simpson scale and look at our risks a little bit more. So we were Category 1, now we're Category 2, getting very close to Category 3. So I'm going to skip ahead to 3 to see what our effects are going to be looking like very soon in the night. So again, coastal flooding is very likely, as well as inland flooding. That's something we are very worried about here in Tallahassee. Flash flooding is very likely, especially with the roads and in the city. Power lines are very vulnerable, as well as power outages. Worst case scenario, we could be out of power for weeks. So please prepare for that very well, as much as you can. As well, there is possibility of major damage to the exterior of homes. So make sure you tie down any loose items and prepare as well as you can as we move throughout the night. And we could even, there is possibility we could see Category 4 effects if Idalia continues to strengthen throughout the night. We're very likely seeing high storm surge effects, which are very unsurvivable. We're seeing anywhere from 12 to 15 feet along the coast, and if you think about that, that is more than double the height of most people. So it's very catastrophic, and the winds are very high, so causing a lot of damage. and Category 5 unlikely, but this is a very catastrophic event. It will be a major hurricane, so make sure you are prepared for that. Again, like I said, the storm surge occurs when we've got the wind and the waves reaching greater heights with the waves and the wind coming from the ocean. So you have your normal sea level, and then the storm surge is going to raise those waves up and bring more water, more inland, and with increasing height. And as well, the wind will fuel that. So storm surge 3 feet, 6 feet, and 12 feet. So we are likely to see those larger storm surge possibilities affecting the coastal areas, Cedar Key, Big Bend, Alligator Point, St. Mark's. All those areas are in very high risk for catastrophic storm surge. So we are still lucky here that we have not experienced effects, but it is coming very soon. We're going to see landfall overnight occurring soon. So make sure you have your weather updates and you have those accessible and ready as well. You want to make sure you have your plans ready. Inform your family where you're at, check on your friends, make sure you have all your supplies in close reach. And during the storm, you want to hunker down, make sure your emergency alerts are turned on and your phone is not on Do Not Disturb, because it is very likely you'll receive potentially life-saving alerts that you will need to be aware of. And as well, avoid floodwaters, turn around, don't drown, do not go in dangerous areas. You cannot tell how deep the water is, so you should not enter, and stay safe in your home. And after the storm, stay clear of debris, pay attention to your local officials. Floodwater can be very dangerous, and make sure to conserve your phone energy as well. And yeah, we will be back in 30 minutes. Make sure to tune in to FSU Weather.